The first time I saw her, I forgot how to breathe. She stood at the edge of the ballroom like a painting come to life, draped in sapphire silk that clung to her waist like it knew secrets, her mask a cascade of gold filigree and glittering gems that caught the candlelight like stars pressed into metal. Everyone called her the Masked Lady, like a ghost story in velvet, a legend whispered between champagne flutes and forced courtly smiles. I had only just arrived at court that evening, freshly introduced as the new Duchess of Velmont after my father's passing, and already my name was in the mouths of ambitious men and observant women. But I wasn't interested in any of them. My gaze kept returning to her. She never removes the mask, someone murmured near me. Not even to speak to the queen. Another added, some say she was cursed by a jealous lover. Others claim she hides a monstrous scar. I didn't care about their stories. I only cared about the way her head tilted when the orchestra changed tempo, how she moved as though music lived inside her skin. I spent most of the night pretending to listen to the Duke of Fairhall drone about his hunting dogs, but I was watching her. Always her. Near midnight, I slipped away from my conversation and crossed the floor toward her, heart pounding, palms damp. She stood alone beside a marble column, half in shadow, eyes scanning the room from behind her delicate mask. You look like you're guarding a secret, I said softly, not wanting to startle her. She turned to me slowly, and I swore I saw the faintest smile ghost across her lips. Aren't we all? Her voice was low, smooth, like silk over stone. I hadn't expected her to speak. I certainly hadn't expected her to speak to me. I'm Isabella, I offered. Duquesa de Velmont. I know who you are, she replied, her voice unreadable. New blood, bold eyes, whispered about in every salon for the last week. And yet you're still talking to me? I teased. Her gaze didn't waver. Curiosity is my one weakness. I wanted to ask her name, but something told me she wouldn't give it. Instead, I asked, may I ask why the mask? Her lips twitched, but not into a smile. May I ask why you wish to know? Because I think you're hiding the most beautiful face in this room, and that feels like a tragedy. She laughed, not a full laugh, but a quiet exhale of surprise, like no one had ever dared flirt with her so boldly. I stepped closer. She didn't move away. Do you dance? I asked. Not with strangers, she replied. Then let's become acquainted. That would be dangerous. I'm not afraid of danger, I said, eyes locked to hers. You should be. But then, just as the orchestra began its next waltz, she held out a gloved hand. I took it. Her touch sent a shock through me, like the spark of something inevitable. We danced. And in that dance, I forgot every rule I was told to follow. I forgot how to be careful. I forgot to look away. I forgot everything except the feeling of her hand in mine and the possibility that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't going to be just another story whispered in the halls of the palace. This was the beginning of something dangerous, something forbidden, something I already knew I would chase no matter the cost. When the dance ended, she curtsied with elegance that stole the breath from my lungs. Until next time, Duchess, she said. But wait, what's your name? I asked. She hesitated, then leaned in, lips a breath from my ear. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. And just like that, she vanished into the crowd, a shimmer of silk and gold, leaving me dizzy, haunted, and hungry for more. I didn't sleep that night. My chambers were rich in silks and luxury, but all of it felt hollow as I lay awake replaying every detail of our dance, her hand in mine, the glint of candlelight dancing across her mask, the way her voice curled around her words like smoke curling through air. I'd danced with dozens of nobles before, endured countless formalities, but nothing had ever disarmed me like her presence. I didn't even know her name. The next morning, I abandoned my duties, an etiquette breakfast with the Countess of Morel, a tour of the Queen's private art gallery, and a social luncheon with 3 prospective suitors who had already sent me far too many letters. I needed answers. I needed her. I began by interrogating the staff, subtly at first. The Masked Lady, I said casually to a maid adjusting a vase of roses in the hallway. She's quite the sensation, isn't she? The girl's eyes widened, as if the mere mention of her summoned ghosts. They call her Lady Evangeline, but no one knows where she lives. She doesn't belong to any of the noble houses. Not officially. That made no sense. You didn't attend royal balls without an invitation, and you didn't get an invitation unless you were part of the inner court. I asked a few more guests over the next few days. Nobles who claimed to have danced with her once, years ago. Others who swore she had been attending balls for a decade, but hadn't aged a day. No one knew her title. No one knew her family. It was as if she appeared only for these nights, wrapped in silk and silence, then vanished into shadows before dawn. But I wasn't satisfied with rumors. I needed her truths. The next ball arrived faster than I expected. I told myself not to look for her too eagerly, to play it cool, but the moment I entered the gilded ballroom, my eyes scanned the room like a soldier on a battlefield. And there she was, again in sapphire, again radiant, again watching everything and revealing nothing. This time, I didn't hesitate. I crossed the floor, ignoring the admiral trying to intercept me, ignoring the glares from the jealous daughters of minor lords. She was leaning on the balcony, a glass of untouched champagne in her hand, her mask sparkling under the chandelier. "You came back," I said. "Of course I did," she replied without turning. "I told you curiosity is my weakness." I leaned beside her, close enough to smell the faintest trace of violets. "So, is it curiosity that brought you back tonight? Or was it me?" She finally turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes then, something raw, momentary, gone too quickly to define. "Perhaps both," she murmured. We spoke for what felt like hours, about nothing, about everything. About how boring royal life could be, how suffocating the weight of expectation was, how people wore masks even without lace and gold. She didn't tell me anything truly personal, but her tone softened with me. She laughed sometimes. And her eyes, those eyes never stopped watching mine, as if she was memorizing my face, mapping every contour with quiet reverence. "Why do you hide?" I asked, not accusingly. "Why the mask?" She stared out at the gardens below. "Because the world is cruel to those who show their scars." I said nothing for a moment. "Then, do you have scars?" Her lips tightened. "Don't we all?" That night, she didn't vanish after one dance. She stayed close, always just far enough to maintain mystery, but near enough to keep me wanting more. And when the final song began, I reached for her hand again. "Join me." "You're persistent. You're irresistible." This time, she didn't hesitate. Her gloved hand met mine, and the music swallowed us whole. Her body was warm against me, fluid and elegant, but her fingers trembled faintly. "What are you afraid of?" I whispered. "That you'll see me," she replied. "I want to," I said. "Even if I'm not what you expect." "Especially then." After the dance, as guests began to trickle away, I found her again beneath the arch of roses near the garden doors. She was alone, watching the stars, the moonlight turning her mask silver. "Walk with me?" I said. She nodded. We stepped into the royal gardens, empty, fragrant, cloaked in night. The air was cooler here, crisper, filled with a scent of jasmine and damp stone. We walked in silence for a long time. Then I asked the question I'd been holding in my chest for days. "Are you real?" She stopped walking. "What do you mean?" "You appear. You vanish. You won't give me your name. It's like you're a dream I'm chasing. And I'm terrified I'll wake up and forget the way your voice sounds." Her breath hitched, barely audible. "I'm real. But I've spent so long hiding that sometimes I forget what it feels like to be seen." I stepped closer slowly. "Then let me see you." She looked at me, and though the mask covered half her face, I saw something in her expression crack. Something fragile, precious, frightened. "Why me?" she whispered. "Why do you keep coming back?" "Because when I'm near you, I feel alive. Because your silence speaks louder than anyone's words. Because I think there's something between us that neither of us understands yet, but I want to." She looked down. "You shouldn't." "Why not?" "Because you'll want more." "I already do." Silence stretched between us. Then, as if possessed by some force greater than myself, I reached out and brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. She didn't flinch. Her eyes fluttered shut. "Do you always wear the mask?" I asked. "Even when you're alone?" "Always." "Why?" "Because if I take it off, I'll have no armor left." I took her hand, pulling it gently to my chest. "Then maybe it's time someone held you without armor." For a moment, I thought she might run. But she didn't. She stepped closer. Close enough for our foreheads to touch, for the moonlight to catch on her lashes. And then, I almost kissed her. Almost. But her hand brushed my cheek and she whispered, "Not yet," before slipping from my grasp and disappearing between the hedges, leaving me breathless and aching and desperate for more. I wrote the letter at dawn, with fingers still trembling from the way her voice lingered in my thoughts. The ink bled slightly on the parchment, my breath unsteady as I pressed the quill to the page. "Meet me. Not at the palace. Not at the next ball. Come to the stone terrace, behind the old chapel on the hill at sunset. No masks. Just you. Just me. Isabella." I sealed it with wax, pressed my ring into it before I could change my mind. Then I paid a stable boy more than I should have to deliver it discreetly. I didn't even know if she'd come. The days until sunset stretched like silk pulled taut, every second fraying my resolve. The court grew noisier, heavier, suffocating. I ignored invitations, dodged dances, sidestepped questions. I needed space. I needed air. I needed her. When the hour came, I left the palace alone, a cloak thrown over my shoulders, my heart beating loud enough to rival thunder. The chapel on the hill had long been abandoned, stone walls overtaken by ivy, stained glass cracked but still vibrant when the sun poured through just right. I stepped onto the terrace behind it, where the world felt quieter, where the air smelled like moss and old secrets. I waited. 10 minutes. 15. Doubt coiled tight in my chest. Maybe she thought it too forward. Maybe she never got the letter. Maybe she was never mine to begin with. But then I heard footsteps. Light, cautious, but unmistakably hers. I turned. She stood at the edge of the terrace, not in sapphire or silk but in a simple dark cloak, her hair down, her mask gone. My breath caught. It was the first time I'd seen her face, really seen it, and it nearly broke me. Her beauty wasn't perfect. It was real. One faint scar curved beneath her left eye, soft and silver like a whisper of something once painful. Her eyes were the same, still sharp, still watchful, but now unshielded, vulnerable in a way that made my throat tighten. "You came," I whispered. "I shouldn't have," she replied, but didn't move. "And yet here you are. Foolish, perhaps. Brave, I think." She stepped closer, slowly, as if every inch was a negotiation with herself. "Do you always get what you want, Duchess?" "No," I said, not blinking. "But I chase what matters." "And you think I matter?" "You already do." Her expression flickered, as if unsure whether to run or stay, to let herself be seen or retreat into the comfort of her mystery. "You don't know me," she murmured. "Not really." "Then tell me something real." She hesitated. Then, "My name is Evangeline Listomere." The name hit me like thunder. That house had fallen from grace decades ago, stripped of titles, caught in scandal. I remembered fragments, treason, whispers of betrayal, accusations never proven. Her eyes searched mine, waiting for judgment. "So that's why the mask," I said quietly. "Not just scars. The court would devour me if they knew. My family's name is poison. And yet they've been dancing with you for years. Because they don't know it's me." She looked away. "They see the mask and invent their own myths. It's safer that way." I stepped closer. "Is it what you want?" Her voice cracked. "It's what I need. And what if you didn't have to hide? Don't be naive. What if I was willing to protect you? Then you'd be risking everything." "So be it." That silence between us stretched again, tense, thick with unspoken things. Then she said something that fractured me. "The scar under my eye, it wasn't from a fall. It was from someone I loved once. Someone who said love, then left a mark when I finally said no. My jaw tightened. I wanted to find whoever had hurt her and make them feel every ounce of her pain. You never deserved that, I said. I deserved it for being foolish enough to believe I could be loved without being broken. You can be, I said. I'm trying to prove that. Her eyes lifted to mine then, and I swear I saw the wall begin to crack. Love what you've seen so far, and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. We stood there in the golden hush of sunset, not as Duchess and masked ghost, but as two women trying to find something human in a world that rarely allowed it. I reached out. Slowly, carefully. My hand brushed hers, fingers lacing. She didn't pull away. Her skin was cold, but it warmed against mine. You scare me, she said. Good. Why? Because fear means there's something worth losing. She looked down at our hands, then stepped closer. So close I could feel her breath against my cheek. I want to trust you, she whispered. Then let me earn it. You are. She leaned her forehead against mine, eyes closed, and I held still, barely breathing, afraid to break the moment. I can't promise you safety, she said. I don't want safety, I replied. I want you. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, she let her thumb trace a line across my knuckles, slow, tender, aching. We stayed like that for what felt like hours. And then she pulled back just a little. If we keep meeting like this, it won't stay secret for long. Then let's not meet here again, I said. Come to my chambers next time, after the lights go out. Her eyes widened, not in shock, but in something deeper. Hunger. Longing. You're not afraid? I'm terrified, I said. But I want you more than I want my reputation. A beat of silence. Then she whispered, then I'll come. And just like that, she turned and vanished down the stone path, leaving behind only the echo of her promise and the sound of my heartbeat racing towards something I couldn't stop if I tried. The knock came just after midnight. Soft. Cautious. I had dismissed my maids hours ago, claiming a headache I had no intention of curing. The fire in my chambers burned low, casting long shadows against the stone walls, and I stood frozen for a breath before I moved. I knew it was her. I didn't need confirmation. I opened the door slowly, and there she was, cloaked in black, hood up, eyes searching mine like she was still waiting for a sign this was truly safe. Come in, I whispered. She hesitated only a second before stepping across the threshold. I shut the door behind her and bolted it. She stood still, unmoving, her breath shallow, as if being inside another's private chambers broke every rule she'd lived by. No one saw you? I asked. No one, she replied, but her voice shook just enough for me to wonder if she was lying for my sake. I moved toward her, slowly, and reached for the clasp at her neck. May I? She gave the faintest nod. I undid the clasp and slid the cloak from her shoulders. Beneath it, she wore nothing extravagant, just a simple midnight blue dress, soft velvet that clung delicately to her form. Her face was bare, her expression unreadable, and for a long moment we simply looked at each other, the space between us thick with everything we hadn't yet dared to say. I thought about not coming, she said finally. Why? Because I've never been alone with someone like this. Not without masks. Not without pretense. Do you regret it? No, she said, and that single word held more weight than any confession. Then stay, I said softly. Just for a while. Stay. She let out a shaky breath. I don't know who I am when I'm not hiding. Then let me help you remember. I took her hand, guided her to the couch near the fire, and we sat so close our knees touched. The silence wrapped around us, not awkward, but alive, charged. I wanted to kiss her. Gods, I wanted it like fire wanted air. But this wasn't the moment to take. This was the moment to offer. Tell me something, I said. Something no one else knows. Her eyes flickered. When I was 13, she began, Voice quiet. I used to sneak into the palace library through a broken window on the east wall. I'd pretend I belonged there. Read poetry out loud in the dark. I thought if I could learn to speak like them, I could someday live like them again. You belonged long before you learned their words, I said. She smiled, just slightly, like she didn't believe me but liked hearing it anyway. Your turn, she said. I hesitated. Then, sometimes I miss my old life. Before the title, before the crown, I used to walk barefoot through the vineyards at dusk. No guards, no rules, just wind and earth and silence. I haven't been barefoot in 5 years. She laughed, the sound hushed and unguarded. Take off your shoes then. What? Take them off. I grinned. And you? Only if you do it first. So I did. I slid off my slippers, let my feet touch the warm rug, soft as clouded velvet. She followed, carefully, placing her bare feet beside mine. There was something oddly intimate in it, something grounding. 2 women, stripped of status, of walls, of everything but skin and silence. I reached for her hand again, and she didn't flinch this time. You feel different tonight, I said. Like the weight's not as heavy. That's because it's still at the door, she whispered. But the moment I leave, I'll feel it again. Then don't leave. Isabella, just stay until morning. Just once. Let me give you one night where you're not looking over your shoulder. And if someone finds out, then let them, I said. I won't pretend I don't want you. Not anymore. Her eyes darkened. You say it like it's simple. It is. I want you. Not your mask. Not your story. You. She leaned forward, slowly, so achingly slow it drove me mad. Her forehead rested against mine again, that now familiar gesture that made my chest ache. I want you too, she said, barely audible. But I don't know how to be wanted without feeling like I'm about to be destroyed. Then let me want you gently. I tilted my face and kissed her cheek. Not her lips. Not yet. Just a soft press near the place her scar faded into skin. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. And then she kissed me. It wasn't practiced. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Soft lips, tentative at first, like she needed permission at every turn. My hand slid to the side of her neck, anchoring her, and she melted into it, her fingers tightening around mine. When we parted, her eyes were glassy, her breath ragged. You're dangerous, she whispered. Only to the parts of you that believe you don't deserve love. We didn't speak for a while. We just curled against each other near the fire, tangled and quiet. At some point, her head rested against my shoulder, her fingers tracing patterns on my wrist. We must have fallen asleep like that, because the next thing I heard was a sharp gasp outside the door. We both sat upright instantly, hearts racing. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the corridor. A servant. Gods. Someone had seen her leaving. Evangeline stood, panic flaring in her eyes. I have to go. No, wait. Isabella, if word gets out, then we'll deal with it. No. You can't lose your position. I can't risk. We are already risking everything. She stared at me for one brutal moment. Then she grabbed her cloak, fastened it, and disappeared into the corridor before I could stop her. I was left standing barefoot, heart racing, hands still warm from where she had touched me, and every wall I'd once built around my feelings crashing down like glass. The first whisper reached me 2 days later. I was walking through the East Wing when Lady Corvina, who never said anything without wrapping it in venom, stopped me mid-step. You know, she purred, there's talk that the Duchess of Elmont is keeping rather unusual company these days. Someone with no name, no face, no past. Rather thrilling, isn't it? I smiled politely, my heart pounding. Gossip tends to invent more than it discovers. Oh, but in my experience, invention is often closer to the truth than anyone dares to admit. She touched my wrist with gloved fingers, faux affection laced with threat. Be careful, Duchess. The court may adore mystery, but it always punishes scandal. I walked away before I said something unforgivable. That night, I didn't sleep. Again. I paced the marble floor of my chambers, replaying every sound from the corridor, every glance I thought had lingered too long. Someone had seen her. Someone was talking. I sent a note to Evangeline. Meet me in the old greenhouse. Midnight. Don't come through the palace. I waited beneath the cracked glass ceiling, surrounded by moonlight and overgrown vines, the scent of damp soil and forgotten roses thick in the air. When she finally appeared, I saw the fear in her eyes before she said a word. It's spreading, isn't it? She asked. The rumors. Not by name.
Not yet, but yes.
She looked around, pacing like a cornered animal. I shouldn't have come that night. I should have left you alone. And I should have locked the damn door. She laughed once, bitterly. You think humor will save us? No, I said, stepping close. But maybe the truth will. What truth? That I am nothing more than a disgraceful name wrapped in a pretty dress. Don't do that. Do what? Strip yourself down before they can. Let them tear you apart in your own voice. You don't know what it's like. Then tell me. Her eyes met mine, sharp and haunted. You think I wore a mask just to hide a scar?
No.
I wore it because every time someone recognized my name, they looked at me like I was dirt. A ghost of shame. I've been spit on. Shut out. Sent away from schools, salons, even temples. No matter how well I spoke, no matter how gracefully I danced, they never saw me. Only the disgrace they decided I was. I don't see disgrace, I said, voice shaking. I see a woman who survived everything they threw at her and still walks like she owns the stars. She turned away. You shouldn't want me. But I do. Then you're foolish. I am, I said. Foolish, reckless, and completely undone by you. Silence. A beat. Then another. She finally sat on the broken stone bench beside a wall of ivy. I knelt in front of her. We can be careful, I said. We can choose when, where, how. I just don't want to go back to pretending you don't exist. And if they find out, then I'll face it with you. Even if they strip you of your title, even if they strip me bare. She looked at me for a long time and I could see it, the shift. The fear hadn't vanished, but something else was winning. Something softer. Something real. She touched my face, her fingers tracing my cheekbone, and leaned forward until our lips brushed. This kiss wasn't shy. It wasn't cautious. It was full of something unspoken, desperation, devotion, 1,000 things we'd both locked away and could no longer silence. We stayed like that for minutes that felt like lifetimes. And then, a sudden noise. Footsteps on the gravel outside. She pulled away instantly. I extinguished the lantern and pressed a finger to her lips. We waited in darkness, hearts thunderous. The door didn't open. The steps faded. But the damage was done. We can't keep doing this, she whispered. Then what? I don't know. But we can't keep hiding and pretending it won't cost us. I stood, took her hands. Come to the ball. The next one. With or without the mask. With it. Let them see the way they always have. Mysterious. Untouchable. And then I'll find you, across the ballroom, in full view of the court. I'll take your hand. I'll dance with you like it means everything. And they'll know. They'll know what? That I've chosen you. Her breath caught. You're not afraid of the scandal? I'm afraid of never loving you properly. And if they punish us, then we endure it together. She touched her fingers to her lips, as if trying to contain something that threatened to overflow. You make it sound easy. It isn't, I said. But it's worth it. The next ball came sooner than I was ready for. I dressed in crimson, bold, defiant. When I entered, whispers followed me like perfume. I ignored them all. My eyes searched. I saw her across the room, masked again, cloaked in midnight blue, still, regal, alone. I walked across the floor without pause. Every eye turned, every voice hushed. I didn't care. I reached her. She turned toward me, I held out my hand. Dance with me. She took it. No hesitation. The music swelled, and we moved together like the stars had been waiting for us to align. It was more than dance. It was declaration. And the court saw it.
Saw everything.
As the waltz spun to its close, I leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Now they know." She trembled against me. "And now it begins." I pulled back and smiled. "Let it." They didn't say anything that night. Not to my face. But the stares were louder than screams. After our dance ended, I led her off the floor with my hand still holding hers, my grip gentle but unrelenting, and for a breathless moment, the court didn't move. Even the orchestra faltered. I saw them watching her mask, watching me, watching us.
It was more than gossip now.
It was confirmation. I didn't care. Not yet. But the storm began the next morning. I was summoned to the Queen's Solar before breakfast, her royal attendants stone-faced as they escorted me through the velvet-draped corridors. The Queen sat alone, back straight, hands folded neatly on her lap. Her expression unreadable. "Your Grace," she said, voice like steel wrapped in silk. "It seems the court is ablaze with conversation about your choice of dance partner." "Is that a crime now?" I asked. "No," she said coolly. "But perception, Duchess, often governs consequence." I said nothing. I knew better than to argue. She studied me for a long moment, then rose and walked to the window. "You are a symbol now, whether you like it or not. Of legacy. Of duty. Your family's power rests on the fragile scaffolding of favor. You know this. And yet, here I stand. For how long?" Her voice sharpened. "You would stake everything, your position, your name, your influence, on a woman whose face remains hidden and whose lineage is buried beneath scandal?" "I would stake everything on someone who makes me remember I'm alive," I said quietly. She turned to face me. Her gaze was cold, but something in it flickered. "Sadness, maybe. Or memory. Then you will have to live with what that costs." I left with fire in my veins. I thought I was ready for the fallout. I wasn't. That afternoon, servants whispered louder. Invitations stopped arriving. Nobles crossed the corridor rather than acknowledge me. And worse, Evangeline disappeared. No letter. No knock. No message slipped beneath my door. I waited. 1 day.
2.
On the third night, I found a note tucked under my pillow. Not her handwriting. Just 4 words. The garden. Midnight. Come alone. I went. Of course I went. I didn't even hesitate. The moon was high and cruel, casting silver light across the hedges. I saw her standing beneath the arbor, still masked, but with her arms crossed and her body braced like she was ready for war. "You can't be here," she said the moment she saw me. "You summoned me." "I know. I shouldn't have." "What's wrong?" She hesitated. "Then, he's back." I didn't understand at first. "Who?" "The man who gave me this." She touched her mask. The scar. The threat. The reason I disappeared years ago. "He's back at court. He saw us." My blood turned to ice. "What did he say?" "Nothing."
Yet.
"But I know him. He doesn't make threats. He gives ultimatums." "And what did he demand?" Her voice was hollow. "That I vanish. That I leave the palace before dawn. Or he tells them everything.
Who I am.
What we are. And he'll destroy you to do it. Let him try. Isabella, I'm not letting some relic of your past tear this away from us. You don't understand.
He can.
He's powerful. He's connected. He knows how to twist truth into poison. Then we fight." "How?" she asked, voice cracking. "How do we fight shadows?" "Together." But she shook her head, tears glinting beneath the edge of her mask. "If I go, he wins. But if I stay, you lose everything." "You're wrong." "Am I?" she snapped, finally breaking. "Look around you, Isabella. You've already begun to lose everything. Your position. Your status. Your favor. I won't be the reason you fall." "You're the reason I stand," I whispered. Don't make me beg. She looked at me then, truly looked, and the agony in her eyes nearly broke me. I love you, I said. The words came without hesitation. I don't care what mask you wear. I don't care what name they buried. I love you, and I won't let you disappear just because some coward threatens us from the shadows. She trembled. Her hands clenched at her sides. I shouldn't let you say that. But I did, and I'll say it again. I love you. She stepped back, 1 pace.
2.
I need time. Time for what? To decide what I'm willing to lose, she said, and whether I'm brave enough to fight for something that could break me all over again. Then let me wait with you. No, she said, and the word hit like glass. If I don't come back by the next full moon, it means I've gone for good. Evangeline, don't look for me. I can't do that. You must. She turned then and ran, really ran, vanishing into the shadows, and I stood there alone in the cold, the garden whispering her name back to me like a curse. For the next 3 days, I was fire and stone. I snapped at everyone. I walked the halls like a ghost. I danced with no one. I spoke with barely more. I was waiting, just waiting, for the full moon, for a sign, for her. And when the night came, when the moon rose fat and full above the palace rooftops, I stood by my window with my heart half dead and whispered to the stars, "Come back to me. Please, gods, let her come back." The moon was 3 nights from full, and she hadn't come back. Every knock at my door that wasn't her made my chest burn. Every whisper I heard in the halls that didn't carry her name left me colder. I tried to bury myself in duties, to recite protocol and etiquette like armor, but the ache beneath it all only grew sharper. I kept replaying that moment in the garden, her voice breaking, the way she said if I stay, you lose everything. As if I hadn't already chosen her. As if I hadn't already decided she was everything. And that man, the one she feared, the one who had once hurt her and now held a knife at both our throats, I couldn't let him stay in the shadows. So I did what the court never expected of me. I stopped pretending. I went to Lady Marceline, who knew every scandal, and I asked her outright. There's a man at court. He's returned recently. Older, powerful, connected. He hurt someone once. A woman. He's making threats again. She raised an eyebrow. You're playing a dangerous game, Duchess. I've already played it. I intend to win. It took her half a day to come back with a name. Lord Hauricvare. Former ambassador. Twice widowed. Older than he pretended to be. Generous with donations, silent with violence. Untouchable. But not to me. I found him in the conservatory that night, sipping brandy and murmuring something low and revolting into a countess's ear. I didn't wait for an opening. I walked straight to him, dress sweeping the floor like a warning bell. Lord Hauric. He looked up surprised, then amused. Your Grace. What a pleasure.
You and I need to speak. Now.
In private. He tilted his head. So serious. You'll want privacy for what I'm about to say. I led him to an antechamber behind the gallery, shut the door, and turned on him like fire. You've made threats against someone I care about. That ends now. He smirked.
Ah.
So the rumors are true. You and the little ghost. Say her name, I hissed. No. He leaned closer, voice low. She ruined herself long ago, Duchess. You're just the newest fool to think her mystery is worth more than her shame. You don't get to talk about her. You don't get to touch her life again. And who's going to stop me? He asked. You? You're a girl with a title, nothing more.
No.
I'm a woman with influence. And you're not as untouchable as you think. He laughed. I've served 3 monarchs. I've bought more loyalty than you'll ever command. Then it's time you met mine. I pulled from my sleeve the folded parchment I'd brought. A signed testimony. Lady Celine of Westhold. Years ago, Hauric had tried to force her into marriage after scandalous threats. She had kept the letters. I had the copies. 1 word from me, I said, and every salon in the capital will know what you did. Every heir's mother will see you as poison. You'll be frozen out of every estate, stripped of favor. Forgotten. His face twisted, a moment of raw, boiling rage barely contained. You'll destroy yourself along with me. Then so be it. But I won't let you destroy her. You don't even know who she really is, he spat.
Yes.
I do. And I love her anyway. That silenced him. For a moment. Then he said something that shook the air around me. She's my daughter. My blood ran cold. You lie. Am I? He said, smug again. Ask her yourself. If she ever dares to show her face again. I left him there, shaking with fury. I couldn't breathe.
Couldn't think.
It didn't make sense. But the way he'd said it, the certainty, it haunted me. That night, I didn't sleep. The moon crept higher. Closer. Still no sign of her. I sat at my window, waiting, whispering her name into the night like a prayer. I imagined her out there, hearing me. I imagined her deciding to return. Or to vanish. I didn't know what hurt more. And then on the night of the full moon, I heard it. A knock. Quiet. Familiar. I flew to the door, unlatched it, and she was there. Hooded. Barefaced. Exhausted. You came back, I breathed. I had to, she said. Her voice was shaking. I couldn't stay away. I pulled her inside and shut the door, wrapping my arms around her before I could stop myself. She held me like I was the only thing tethering her to the earth. Did he speak to you? I asked. No, she whispered. But I saw him, and I was afraid. Afraid of what I'd become if I let him win again. I stepped back, took her face in my hands. He told me something cruel, something I didn't want to believe. She froze. Her eyes darkened. He told you he's my father. I couldn't speak, could only nod. He's right, she said. By blood, but not by choice. My mother was his second wife. She died when I was young. He kept me hidden, used me, controlled me, until I ran. The court never knew. He paid for my silence. My mask was my freedom. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought if you knew, you'd see him when you looked at me. I stepped closer. I see you. Always you. She broke then. Tears fell, real, unchecked, and I held her as she sobbed into my shoulder, as years of fear and shame spilled out in silence. You were never the scandal, I whispered. You were the survivor. She looked up at me through wet lashes. I still want to run. Then run to me. Isabella, stay. Let me fight beside you. Let us stop hiding. Even now? Even knowing what I come from. Especially now. Because now I know how much you had to survive just to stand in front of me. She kissed me then, desperate, trembling, full of every moment we'd lost. I kissed her back like the world might end at dawn. And when we finally pulled apart, I said, let's end this. Together.
How?
By showing them everything. No more secrets. No more masks. And if they turn on us, then we walk away from them. And we build a new world with our own hands. She smiled, faint, afraid, but real. You do that for me? No, I said. I'd do that for us. The invitation arrived on golden paper, sealed with the royal crest, an imperial summons to the final ball of the season. The Queen's command was clear. Every noble house, every title-bearing guest, every symbol of courtly grace was expected to attend. It was tradition, spectacle, ceremony. But for us, it would be war. I sat on the edge of my bed, the invitation open in my lap, the wax broken by my trembling fingers. Evangeline stood by the window, arms folded tight, eyes locked on the sky, as if looking too closely at me might crack her resolve. We don't have to go, I said, though we both knew it wasn't true. She turned slowly. No, she said. We do. If we don't walk into that room hand in hand, they win. And if we do, we could lose everything. Then we lose it together. I stood and crossed the room. Will you wear the mask? A long silence stretched between us. And then she reached into her cloak and pulled it out, gold and intricate, the symbol of her secrecy, and placed it gently on my vanity.
No, she said.
Not this time. My heart thundered. Are you sure? I'm done hiding. The night of the ball, the palace was more alive than I had ever seen it. Carriages lined the marble drives, lanterns floated like stars above the courtyards, and inside the grand hall, nobles glittered like jeweled vipers. Every eye turned when I entered. I wore deep crimson again, unapologetic. Alone, at first. I wanted her entrance to be hers, to belong to her alone. I stood near the staircase, ignoring the murmurs. And then she came. The doors opened, and for a moment no one moved. No music, no breath, just her. Evangeline Listomere. No mask, hair swept up in dark curls. A gown of midnight silk, fitted with silver thread, elegant and undeniable. Her scar visible, beautiful in its defiance. And her face, gods, her face, was everything they weren't ready to see. Not broken, not shameful, powerful. And beside her, Lady Selene, the one who had helped me gather evidence against Hauric. The court saw the alliance, saw the history, saw the truth. I stepped forward, heart in my throat. And Evangeline, my Evangeline, walked straight to me, eyes never leaving mine, until we met at the center of the hall. You're here, I said. So are you. You're radiant. I'm terrified. Good, I whispered. That means it matters. I held out my hand. She took it. The music began.
And we danced.
The same way we had the first night. The same way we danced in gardens and silence and shadow. But now, under full light, under every gaze. Whispers rose around us, some in awe, some in disgust. I didn't care. She didn't flinch. Around and around we moved, not as secrets, but as truth. And then he stepped into the ballroom. Hauric. Cold.
Polished. Poised.
His smile was thin as a knife. His eyes locked on us with venom. Evangeline faltered in my arms. Just a step. I tightened my hold. Ignore him. He won't let this stand. Then let him try. But he didn't make a scene.
Not yet.
He watched. Waited. Calculated. I knew the look of a man preparing to strike where it would hurt most. I guided her off the dance floor as the waltz ended, and we retreated to the far side of the ballroom, near the colonnade. He's going to do something, she whispered. I can feel it. Let him burn. Isabella, no. We've come too far. We've bled for this. But just as the next song began, a steward approached, tense, pale. Your Grace, he said. There's an urgent matter. You're summoned to the Queen's study. Immediately. My stomach twisted. Evangeline clutched my hand. It's him, she said. He's moving. Stay here. Do not leave this room. I'm coming with you. No, I said. If this is a trap, I won't risk you. She hesitated. I love you. Then let me protect you. I kissed her hand and turned away, every step heavier than the last. The palace corridors blurred around me as I followed the steward. But when we reached the Queen's study, it wasn't the Queen waiting. It was Hauric. Alone. I froze. Where is she? I demanded.
Safe, he said.
For now. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me. He poured himself a drink, as if we were meeting for chess. You've made quite the spectacle tonight. That was the point. You humiliated me. You humiliated yourself. And now, he said, sipping, you will pay the price. What do you want? Her gone. Her name erased again. Her silence. Your silence. Or I release the documents. What documents? Correspondences, he said. False, of course, but compelling. A forged plot to blackmail the crown. Signed in your hand. It'll ruin you. You're bluffing. Am I? He tossed a parchment onto the desk. My seal. My signature. My words, twisted into something treasonous. My throat closed. No one will believe this. The court will believe whatever the Queen tells them. And she believes me. I stared at the paper. The trap was perfect. Elegant. Undeniable. Unless I let him win. Unless I let her go. All you have to do, he said, is walk back into that ballroom. Tell her it was a mistake.
Publicly.
Leave alone. That's all. One final mask. I stared at him, at the smugness, the certainty, and then I smiled. No. I said no. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out a second document. Lady Celine's letter.
Signed.
Verified. Duplicated. You're not the only one who kept letters. You wouldn't dare. Try me. He lunged for me. Too late. The Queen stepped into the room behind him. Lord Howrick, she said coldly. I think we've heard enough. He turned pale. Your Majesty, you are hereby stripped of title and rank. You will leave the palace tonight. And if you ever threaten a single soul within these walls again, it will be your last mistake. Guards appeared from the hall. They seized him. He didn't fight, just glared at me with hatred that would never fade. But I didn't care. I ran. Down the hall. Through the arches. Back into the ballroom. She was still there, standing alone, eyes searching. When she saw me, she froze. I crossed the room without pause. No hesitation. And when I reached her, I cupped her face in my hands and said, loud enough for the court to hear, he's gone. Forever. Her knees nearly buckled. I caught her. She cried against me as music played again. And this time, when we danced, the whispers were softer. Fewer. The Queen stood above the balcony, watching. And then she nodded. Just once. Permission. Or maybe blessing. And that night, we didn't sneak away. We walked hand in hand through the great hall, our heads held high, toward whatever future we had the courage to build. The palace changed after that night. Not all at once. Not loudly. But it changed. People no longer whispered behind their fans when we passed. Some still stared, of course, as if trying to decide whether what they had witnessed had truly happened. Others offered polite nods, even the occasional tight smile. And yet, there were those who refused to speak to me at all. Invitations trickled instead of flooded. I wasn't officially exiled from favor, but the message was clear. I was no longer the Duchess who followed the rules. I was the one who loved her. And she, the unmasked mystery, had become something entirely new, neither ghost nor scandal, but something harder to define. Some still called her dangerous. Others brave. Some called her foolish. A few called her holy. But to me, she was simply Evangeline, the woman I had fought for, the woman who had chosen to stay. We spent our days mostly apart. Duty required it, but our nights belonged to us. In my chambers, in the hush between candlelight and moonlight, she would unlace her corset and let down her hair, and we would speak in quiet voices about things neither of us had ever said aloud. About fear. About longing. About what it meant to be seen. We never talked about the future. Not in words. But it hovered there, between every look and every touch. Until one night, I broke the silence. Marry me, I said. She froze, her hands still brushing the back of my neck. What? I said marry me. Isabella, I know we can't sign papers. I know we can't stand before priests. But I don't care. Let me stand beside you. Let me wake up to you every day, without apology. Her fingers trembled. You would give up everything for me. No, I said. I would give up everything for us. She stepped back slightly, and I saw it, the flicker of fear. Not because she didn't want it, but because wanting it meant risking again. I don't know if I'm strong enough, she said. You wore your scars in front of an entire ballroom. You're the strongest person I know. They're still watching us, still waiting for us to fall. Then let's give them something else to watch. What do you mean? I walked to the edge of the chamber, pulled open the velvet curtain, and looked down into the grand courtyard where, in just 3 nights, the Queen would host the midsummer address. Every noble in the realm would be present. Let's show them. Together. At the address. Isabella, let me take your hand in daylight. In front of them all. Not in whispers. Not in shadows. Let them see that love like ours doesn't need their permission. She didn't answer at first. The silence stretched like something sacred. I don't want to be your secret, I said. But I won't be your shame either. If you need to stay in the quiet, I'll respect that. But if there's even a part of you that wants to stand beside me in the light, then come to me that day. I turned away before I saw her reaction. I couldn't bear to look. She left before morning. No words. No promise. Just the soft sound of her cloak and the faint scent of violets left behind. The next day passed without her.
And the next.
My chest ached with each hour. I rehearsed the Queen's speech, stood through council meetings, smiled for nobles I despised. But I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The night before the address, I sat alone on my balcony, wind tugging at my braid, heart breaking in silence. Maybe she couldn't do it. Maybe it was too much. Maybe I had asked her to walk barefoot through fire. But hadn't she already done that? The morning of the midsummer address dawned clear and cruelly bright. The palace gardens had been transformed into a theater of opulence. Drapes of gold and white shimmered across every arch. The Queen's platform stood tall above a sea of velvet-covered chairs. Musicians tuned their instruments. Guards lined the paths. And I stood alone in the royal line, every inch of me polished and perfect, waiting. The Queen began her speech. I didn't hear a word. I was watching the path, watching the gates, hoping, dreading, praying, until movement. At the edge of the crowd, a figure in indigo silk. No cloak, no mask. Her. She was there, walking slowly, eyes on me, each step deliberate. Every head turned. Murmurs rippled. The Queen's voice faltered, just for a second. Evangeline reached the front row and paused. I didn't move, didn't breathe. She met my gaze, steady and unflinching. And then she stepped onto the platform beside me. She took my hand. Every breath in the garden stopped. I saw the Queen look down at us, her expression unreadable. And then she kept speaking, as if nothing had changed. Or maybe everything had. Evangeline turned to me, and in the middle of the Queen's address, in front of every noble in the realm, she whispered, "I'm yours." Say it again. "I'm yours." I smiled, felt tears rise. Then stay. Always. And there we stood, hand in hand, while the world finally, silently, began to understand what it meant to love without masks. They summoned us before sunrise. No announcement, no formal invitation, just a soft knock on the door and a single phrase from the steward. "The Queen wishes to see you. Both of you." I rose without hesitation. Evangeline stood beside me, already dressed, already braced, eyes dark with quiet resolve. We hadn't spoken much since the address. We hadn't needed to.
Her hand in mine on that platform had said everything.
But this was different. This was judgment. We were led through the private corridors of the palace, where no courtiers roamed and no whispers followed, only silence and the distant flicker of torches. The throne room was empty when we arrived. No guards, no nobles, only the Queen, seated in a chair that looked far too small for the weight it carried. She did not look at us immediately. Her gaze was fixed on the windows, where the first blush of dawn painted the sky in rose and gold. When she finally turned to us, her expression gave nothing. "You have disrupted the natural order of this court," she said quietly. "You have defied its rules, shamed its legacy, and invited scrutiny upon the very pillars that keep it standing." Evangeline's fingers tightened around mine, but I didn't let go. "And yet," the Queen continued, "you have also reminded us that the heart does not bend to law, nor love to legacy." She stood, moved closer. Her gaze landed on Evangeline. "You are the daughter of disgrace, a name that history tried to erase. You returned with nothing but your own silence and a mask to wear it. And somehow, you've made this court kneel before your honesty." Evangeline said nothing. Her shoulders were straight, her breath calm. The Queen turned to me. "And you, Duchess, are the last of a line that has served this crown for generations. You were meant to marry well, to produce heirs, to bring stability to a kingdom grown tired of scandal. Instead, you bring her. Yes, I said simply. Her. Silence. A beat. Another. And then the queen smiled. Then let it be known that stability is overrated. I blinked. Evangeline's breath caught. The queen moved back to her seat, voice calm, almost amused. This court was built on appearance. Masks.
Posture.
Control. But what use is a kingdom that denies the very fire that keeps it alive? What use is tradition if it kills the soul? She folded her hands. You will not be punished.
Not today.
Not tomorrow. You will, however, continue to be watched.
And judged.
And whispered about. But if you are brave enough to endure it, then you may walk these halls hand in hand, with your heads high, and no one will dare stop you. I almost didn't believe it. But Evangeline, she wept. Silent tears, sharp and clean, cutting through every scar the world had left on her spirit. She bowed her head. Thank you, Your Majesty. Don't thank me, the queen said. Thank yourselves. You did what no one else had the courage to do. You chose love. We left the throne room with the morning sun warming our faces. The palace was waking. Servants bustled. Nobles prepared for the day's performances. But for the first time, we didn't need a stage. We walked together, not in shadow, not in secret.
Side by side.
Unmasked. That afternoon, I brought her to the vineyards outside the city, my childhood refuge. We walked barefoot through rows of sunlit vines, her laughter echoing in the breeze, and I showed her where I used to hide letters to myself between the stones. She read one aloud. Someday I will find something worth losing everything for. She looked at me. You always knew. Not your name, but your soul. In the weeks that followed, everything changed slowly. The court learned to adjust, or at least to look away. We appeared at events together. We danced at balls. We rode through the city in open carriages, shoulders brushing. When we walked past tapestries of great love stories, we didn't avert our eyes. Because ours belonged there too. One day, I took her to the Queen's garden and knelt before her. No crowd, no crown, just a simple ring and a promise whispered against her fingers. Let me be yours forever. She said yes, not through tears, not through fear, but with a smile that could shatter centuries. We married beneath the stars, unofficially, illegally, irrevocably, surrounded by those who had stood with us, and the ghosts of those who had not. Evangeline wore silver. I wore red, and when I kissed her, the world tilted back into place. We kept her mask. We didn't destroy it. It rested in a glass case in our library, a reminder of everything she had survived, of everything we had overcome. And sometimes, when the night was quiet, she would stand before it, fingertips brushing the edge, and say, I never thought I'd live long enough to take it off. And I would wrap my arms around her and whisper, you never have to wear it again. Years passed. Seasons shifted. The court changed. And when young nobles spoke of love, they no longer whispered about scandal. They whispered about us. The Duchess and the Masked Lady. The crown and the flame. The woman who loved despite the world. And the woman who finally let herself be loved. And when they asked how we survived, I always answered the same. Because she stayed. And when they asked why I chose her, I said because I saw her before the mask ever fell. And because, once she let me kiss her, I knew I would never stop. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.